Tony D and Little Joan with the Screenwriter's Rant on the Aviary, movie starring Malik Akerman, I think her name is. She used to be on a lot of Adult Swim shows as a funny, comedic character, but now she seems to be trying to make the move to more serious actress, and she's been in a few movies of late. So this is a horror movie known as The Aviary, which is about two women who escaped some kind of cult and some guy who would manipulate them. And they end up in the desert trying to walk to freedom, but at the same time they're experiencing hallucinations. And they don't know whether or not to trust each other. So the question is, what's reality, what isn't? They somehow find the guy's computer. I don't know if he's dead or what, but he's the cult leader and he's kind of a psychiatrist. And then they, during their walk, they end up stumbling upon a place and realize they've walked the wrong way, and the hallucinations get worse and worse, and they start running out of food. Here they are divvying up the chocolate. Who do you trust? You know, is one of the women still in the cult, or who do you trust when you can't trust yourself? So these two have had a lot of problems. What is that S for? I forget. So it looks like a very serious horror movie, but more of a psychological horror movie. So there's not like a supernatural predator or anything. This guy, you keep calling him the devil, and it's called The Aviary. Written and directed by Chris Collare and Jennifer Raitt. Malin Akerman, or Akerman? Maybe Akerman. Chris Messina. I think I know that name too. Who the hell is he? Chris Messina. I know that name. So this looks okay. In theaters, on digital, and on demand, April 29th. Probably I would imagine it's a limited run in theaters. But, you know, it looks okay. Looks a little trippy, you know, being stuck out the desert. It looks low budgety because this is the kind of, you know, they've only basically got, you know, the cast is like these two and like the guy and one other person. So in that respect, it's very low budget. They're shooting a lot outside, mostly. So, yeah, I could see this being a decent movie. First act, they escape the cult. And they're talking about the cult, and they're so happy to be out of it. And then second act, they start stumbling upon different clues along their journey. At one point in the trailer, they hear a phone ringing, and then I think they find a body, and then a computer with information on it about the cult and the guy. I don't know how it gets in the desert. So then, at some point in the movie, I would say maybe most of the way through the second act, they realize they've gone the wrong way. Maybe about halfway through the movie. So they're totally lost. They've gone the wrong way. They walked 25 miles in the wrong direction. How are they going to survive? They're running out of food. So it's like part survival, but part like psychological thriller. As they run out of food, walking in the desert, they start to hallucinate. They start to fall back on the patterns that the cult taught them, and then they start getting paranoid of each other. The ending of this, it begs for some sort of big twist, right? So the big twist is you could go a lot of different ways. If it's like a Twilight Zone episode, the big twist could be that they were already dead, and they're trapped in their own version of hell, right? Constantly wandering the desert looking for a way out, which they'll never find. That would be sort of a classic ending. Another ending would be, like the sort of trite one would be, they get out. Someone pulls up in a car and like, ladies, come on, and it's a happy ending. And I don't think this is going to be a happy ending. The other one is they end up walking back to the cult and one of them has betrayed the other. She was still in the cult the whole time, and she was only trying to break the other one, and now they're going back to the cult, and they'll be stuck in it forever. Another version is one of the women is an illusion, right? One of the women is hallucinating her friend, who she killed in the desert, and she pretends like it's her friend. The other one is the cultist, the cult leader is really one of these women, but the other woman is so messed up, she doesn't see him for what he is. And really, she's been walking with the cult leader the whole time. It's definitely going to be a twist. And it's good that I don't know it. That's an indication of the quality of the setup. I think it's a decent setup, too, because people do join cults. Don't ask me why. And they are a horror show all within their own. But this further adds a different layer of psychological. They're isolated. So it's got all the good elements of a horror movie. Now, Malin Akerman, because she's been in comedies, I desperately want her to do something funny in this, but I know she won't. But for a lot of you who don't know her work on Adult Swim, you might be like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's sort of like when Bill Murray tried his first dramatic role, and you wanted desperately for him to do something funny, and even though he was in a drama role, I think he was in a love story, and it was weird. It was weird to see him in that, because every time he did something even remotely spontaneous, you were like, he's going to do something funny. And then he didn't, and it was like, oh. So I get that sort of vibe with Akerman. But she looks good in this movie. It looks like a solid, low-budget premise. This is what you got to do. You got to limit the locations or limit the cast. Usually limiting the cast is the easiest thing to do if you have some fairly dedicated actors and actresses. And you just shoot this thing. You just go out in the desert and shoot it. Because the desert, are you going to know, if they shot this thing on, say, a 10-acre ranch in the desert, would you know that they hadn't walked 25 miles? No. You're not going to be like, wait a minute, I saw that rock. They're not going to show you anything that noticeable. It'll all just look like desert to you. Especially if you've got a hill behind them, right? It's just never going to look the same. And you're not going to be paying attention to the background anyway. You're going to be paying attention to them. And, the desert part is definitely part of the danger, because they can get dehydrated. You can die out in the desert. It happens all the time. It still happens. There was this horrible story just recently of a couple, for some reason, walked out in the desert on a hike with their toddler, and they all died. Yeah, what the hell, man? How could you, risk your toddler like that? How messed up do you have to be? How did you not have the tools and the water and the know-how to come back from a hike? But there are still parts of the United States that are like that, and in the rest of the world, especially in Asia. So beware. I think this could be good. I think a lot of it is on the actors. A lot of it's going to be on Akerman and her co-sidekick there. They're going to have to be good actresses to make this work. And him, he's the bad guy, so he's really got to be good. But he's got the look, right? He's got the look of a cult leader. So yeah, I would probably see this. So in theaters, on digital, and on demand, April 29th. It's called The Aviary. Check it out. Escape if you can from the Aviary. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. We have 2 other videos that you can't see on YouTube. They are a Hollywoke hot take and a news blast. We will see you tomorrow.